Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming, and of course, lost soul aside with its new release. This game has a crazy story, a fan of Final Fantasy who began development of a game all on their own, and a decade later it's a studio with 40 people, it's backed by Sony, so no matter what happens with this game, I think that's a pretty big success despite its messy, long-awaited release. And so they've pretty much run the gauntlet as a studio. It'll be interesting to see where they go from here. But with Lost Soul aside, obviously we have a very flashy and hopeful take on action RPG, hack and slash in a way that definitely reminds me of Devil May Cry for longer combos and a general combat style. Let's talk about what this game is and some useful minimal spoiler things to know as you dive in yourself. For the story, we're playing as Kazar, who works in unison with this strange creature, Arena. Arena can take on many forms, for travel and transport, but obviously a lot of it for combat. Swapping between 4 main weapons that you can instantly transition between mid-combo. The context for what we're actually doing though ties into, well, an alien invasion and trying to save your sister's soul. The game itself opens with the main character and his sister, Louisa, undergoing a mission to rebel against their tyrannical empire. So our opening mission is more under normal circumstances. You'll experience some of that tyranny, eventually working with your sister to infiltrate the imperial capital. So you'll deal with some basic platforming, basic imperial defenses. But right as that mission's going well and is properly underway, this sudden meteor shower starts, and with it, these strange alien creatures are attacking everyone. And then the Empire doesn't matter anymore. Separated from your sister, you start to work your way back up through the wall to catch up during the mess of it all. And on the way, that's when you encounter Arena, this giant alien dragon that explains that this is an alien invasion. And for some reason, he offers his power to help you. So obviously you gotta wonder like why and what his real goals are. But he explains that the aliens come from another dimension and their goal is classic conquer worlds and other species. And so with your newfound power, you fight your way back to your sister only to be ultimately overwhelmed. And in that time, your sister is drained by a strange power. Our big picture goal then is to save her soul. And going on that journey, you travel between worlds and dimensions yourself. And ultimately, unintentionally become the hope of humanity as you do. So it's a pretty cool setup. Let's talk about the meatiest aspect of the game, which is combat. You'll fight using Arena directly as he transforms into different powers but also weapons. The 4 weapons you have serve different purposes. That's the one-handed sword, the much bigger greatsword, the pole blade, and the scythe. So you'll unlock the one-handed sword to begin with. Once you're going though, you'll be able to swap between these mid-attack, setting up a knock-up only to swap to another weapon like greatsword and then slam them down or something. Each weapon serves its own purpose, so the goal is using the ideal weapon in the ideal situation. With the basic sword, you'll be fast and agile. They call it split-second strikes. Closer range, though it does have some basic air slice potential, but it lets you weave in and out of the combat, dashing back to dodge an attack or back in to get close. It also works as a solid launch weapon to drag an enemy or groups of enemy into the air and start juggling. But it's also solid at continuing that juggle and slamming down and ending it. On top of that, it has respectable cleave with spinning attacks around yourself. An all-rounder in its own way, it has options for everything, and obviously works as a great beginner weapon. Next would be the greatsword. They call it earth-shattering power. Naturally, you can have greater reach than the basic sword and heavier hits, but it comes with a slower nature. So you're able to charge up hits to unleash heavier strikes, staggering enemies super well, keeping them interrupted. One attack lets you send out a spinning throw that ticks many times in a row, or as the cleaving of the ground to leave lines or bursting earthquakes. It's going to be a great weapon as a combo ender for sure. Next would be the pole blade, called the Piercing Storm. With the best constant range attack options, it's going to be your ideal use against something with even medium distance from you. Able to pierce through targets though, using air slices and thrusts, it's going to be great to position to try to maximize piercing damage or just group up enemies to secure that. It can still of course be used in melee with more of a single target focus with longer combos, and it can be used to launch enemies or slam them down in tight locations. Just a lot less AoE focused. Finally we have the scythe, which has the most unique attacks of the lot. You're able to generate spinning blades to assist you in combo build-up, grab and pull enemies around. It's going to be a solid option for launching enemies or bringing them down. It can cleave really well. It's also one of the more versatile weapons like the one-handed sword, but with some unique aspects to it. But to get to the point, maximizing them is about swapping between them, launching a foe into the air with your sword to then bring them down with a greatsword, sending an enemy reeling with a heavy strike of the greatsword, and now they're at medium range, launch into a fast range combo with the pole blade. If you're juggling in the air, you could swap to the scythe to pull them back up to you to continue the chain after you just ended it. There's a ton of potential between the weapons, but Arena powers also extend to generating forms of himself. You're able to have up to 3 equipped for use at any one time once you've unlocked them. We'll build up the resources for these powers through combat, each with their own unique energy you have to build up and spend individually. These powers would be things like the claws. So like giant dragon claws that spin around you and cleave around yourself, great for packs of enemies. There's Crystal Blast, which launches explosive orbs around your location, bouncing and spreading out from you. This could be great when surrounded by enemies with a bit of distance, or just providing a bit of extra burst on a combo you're doing. Frost Blast is a single charged bomb you place under yourself, which grows in size after each explosion. So ideally you use it against a target that's not going to instantly move from it, maybe one that's mid-staggered or something. Mountain Break sends out shockwave lines that crack the ground ahead of you, can be used at point blank against a single strong target, all good for AoE. There's Purgatory Dance, which has you spin around in very agile ways, airstrikes and whirlwinds and spins. But it's important to think about the fact that you can use all of these powers in combo, back to back, dumping all of them if you want, or weaving them in between other aspects of your weapon combos for maximum impact. Timing this all during a fusion merge would be best, as we'll explain in a moment. Now it is technically an RPG, right? So there's going to be a skill tree. So that's going to get everything fully unlocked, but obviously further modified is a classic skill tree concept. And like any classic RPG, you'll get new unlocks there, but you're going to improve aspects of your weapons, powers, or otherwise through passives as well. So nothing too crazy there. Greater progression comes from actually unlocking the different weapons, starting with the one-handed sword and working into the great sword and beyond. There is equipment to think about too. You've got your weapon slots, your arena power slots, and then the trinkets as well. Trinkets are just going to provide you these passive impactful benefits, like straight up increased max life, which is obviously great. You're just going to be careful about what passives you're actually looking at. Like for example, some items are going to give you big increases to output, but also make you take more damage. So just because something's a higher level yellow or has like the 3 diamond symbols doesn't mean it's going to be the best option. Just consider what you get as you progress and unlock more stuff after beating bosses and so on. The passive combat stuff is important to know though, like the burst string combos. Each combo has a burst timing, which will improve your output in the moment. You begin to flash blue, and then on a controller you press R2 to trigger a burst pursuit, which basically costs a little stamina, but flows into your normal combo without interrupting it as a little increase to the output. The idea there then is to avoid blindly spamming buttons and try to maximize that timing whenever it's available. Each weapon should have different attacks and a different flow, so it'll be a bit different between them. But once you get comfortable with all the weapons and their timings, it should be pretty smooth. Other stuff exists like sync finishers, which are basically like executes. You break the stance of an enemy by dealing enough damage, draining the yellow bar, and then you can quickly execute them with this special animation. You're actually immune to damage during these though, so a well-timed finisher on a weaker enemy could let you dodge the attack of another maybe stronger enemy, or vice versa. Just something to think about. Naturally, you can also dodge and block in the game. Perfect timing on these are encouraged. There is a perfect block, which will actually interrupt the enemy, while perfect dodges, these generate unbound energy, which can be spent on special weapon attacks, so definitely worth doing when you can. But obviously if you block too early, you still block, whereas if you dodge too early, you still get hit. Lastly to mention though is the fusion merge, which can be used when its bar is full after dealing enough damage to generate it. In this state, you're just amped up basically. You drain all the fusion energy while you're in it, but in exchange, you deal more damage. So while your hair's white in this mode, you dump all your resources and maximize that increased damage while it lasts, for an ideal, optimal DPS window. So yeah, there's a lot to say about the combat there. Hopefully that was a good overview and things to be working towards and thinking about in these opening days. Obviously, it's all going to be set in some pretty crazy environments since they can do whatever they want with this whole alien world dimension traveling concept. But yeah, there's going to be an onslaught of basic enemies, mini bosses and major boss fights on the way. The level design as you go and the game progression is actually straightforward. There are some basic puzzles and platforming on the way, but you look at the minimap and you see that it is familiar corridor style. And then, the off routes are pretty obvious where you might get some extras. Pretty familiar when it comes to JRPGs and games of that nature. It's not exactly an open world game, which I suppose some people were thinking it might be during the release, since some trailers showed some flight options and really good range of travel. And while you do have those options, and levels are definitely designed with them in mind, like gliding or hovering or bigger leaps and sometimes flying, there is going to be lots of platforming and exploration to do within the limited environments. As a final note, from what they've said about the game, we can expect about 20 to 30 hours of play if you're just kind of pushing the main story. Imagine you're going to play longer than that if you're not ignoring everything, and also if you're just into the combat. But yeah, that'll do for now. A starter guide to the setup of the game, the core aspects of combat, without any proper spoilers. If you guys have been playing today and have any extra tips or advice for others, you can let us know in the comments. But we'll have more detailed advice and info coming your way in the coming days. Until then, thanks for watching and see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.